Tom's day began like any other on Haven Ring, the giant research station floating in the middle of quiet space. His work was not exciting to most people, but he liked it. He fixed broken lights, cleaned solar panels, and checked air systems. Life here was peaceful, far away from the busy planets. That morning, he was in the outer observation deck, replacing a cracked panel. Outside the thick glass, endless black space stretched in all directions. Stars shimmered like silver dust, and the blue glow of a nearby gas giant gave the station a soft light. Tom hummed quietly while working, enjoying the stillness. Suddenly, the comm broke. A deep alarm rang through the station. The sound echoed in the steel walls, rising and falling in a steady tone. Tom froze, his tools still in hand. The alarm was not for fire or a technical fault. This one meant something unusual. Something unknown was approaching. His communicator crackled with the voice of Chief Lorne, the station's operations leader. Unidentified vessel detected. All non-essential crew stay in quarters. Investigation. Team, meet in docking bay 2. Tom was not part of the investigation team, but curiosity was stronger than caution. He packed his tools, secured the panel, and hurried toward the docking bay. As he moved through the long, curving corridors, he saw people peeking from doorways. Their eyes wide, most obeyed the order to stay inside, but Tom kept walking. When he reached docking bay 2, the heavy blast doors were already open. Through the tall viewing windows, he could see the object drifting toward them. It was a ship, though unlike any human design. Its surface was smooth and curved, made of some dark material that reflected faint light like polished stone. No engines glowed at the back. It floated silently, as if asleep. Chief Lorne and a few security officers stood at the console, scanning. No power signature, Lorne said. But life signs, yes, one. Tom's heart beat faster. A lone traveler in a dead ship. Who were they? Why were they here? The docking arms extended, pulling the strange craft toward the station. It slid smoothly into place, and the airlock doors sealed with a heavy hiss. The small boarding group prepared to enter. Tom stayed at the edge, half hidden behind a storage crate. He knew he should leave, but his feet would not move. Inside the alien ship, the air was warm and faintly sweet, like a strange flower. The walls had patterns carved into them, spirals, lines, and shapes that almost seemed to shift when he looked at them too long. At the center, in a wide chamber, was the figure. She was tall, taller than any human Tom had seen, with skin the color of pale silver, and hair like threads of white light. She wore smooth armor in shades of deep blue and silver, decorated with the same patterns as the walls. In her hand, she held a long staff made of the same dark material as the ship's hull, etched with glowing symbols. She was lying on the floor, her breathing slow but steady. She was not hurt, at least not in any way Tom could see. Chief Lorne knelt beside her, scanning with a handheld device. Vitals normal. No sign of injury. The security officer looked at the staff in her hand. Might be a weapon, he said. Better take it for now. With some effort, they gently slid the staff from her fingers and placed it in a sealed case. Even without touching it, Tom felt a strange weight in the air, as if the staff carried some deep importance. The alien woman stirred, her eyes opening. They were large, bright, and seemed to reflect tiny points of light like the night sky. She sat up slowly, her gaze moving over the group. When her eyes met Tom's from across the room, he felt a strange shiver, as though she could see more than just his face, as if she was reading his thoughts. She spoke, but her words were unlike anything he had ever heard. A flowing, musical language, soft yet powerful. No one understood. Chief Lorne spoke carefully. We mean you no harm. You are on Haven Ring. You are safe. The alien tilted her head, listening, but did not answer in the same language. Instead, she touched her chest lightly, then pointed toward the sealed case where her staff was stored. Her eyes lingered there for a moment before looking back at the group. She wants it back, Tom whispered without thinking. Lorne glanced at him. Perhaps, but we cannot risk it. Not until we know what it is. The alien's gaze rested on Tom again. Longer this time, Before she looked away, she stood with graceful movements, her posture straight and steady, without speaking further. She followed the security team as they guided her toward the medbay. Tom stayed behind for a moment, looking at the empty spot where she had been. Something about her presence felt different from anything he had experienced. It was not fear. It was not threat. It was important, though he could not explain why. Back in the main corridor, the usual hum of the station felt strangely louder. Tom walked toward the medbay, even though no one had asked him to. Part of him wanted to see if she was all right, another part simply wanted to understand. When he arrived, she was sitting on a bed, looking round with quiet interest. The medical machines hummed softly. She did not resist when the med officer scanned her, but her attention was fixed on the doorway. On him, Tom stepped inside slowly. "Hello," he said softly. She blinked, studying his face, then repeated the sound in a careful tone. "Hello." Her voice was calm, each word clear, as though she was tasting the shape of it. Tom smiled a little. "You understand," she shook her head slightly, but then tapped her temple, as if to say she was trying. For the rest of the evening, she stayed there, silent but watchful. Whenever Tom glanced her way, her bright eyes were already on him. The staff, the strange object she had held, was locked far away in the storage room. Yet Tom could not shake the feeling that returning it to her might be the key to learning the truth about why she had come. The next morning on Haven Ring, the medbay was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. Tom arrived early, carrying a tray with breakfast. He had offered to help bring meals for the alien woman, mostly because no one else seemed eager to spend time with her. When he stepped inside, he saw her sitting upright on the bed. Her posture was perfectly straight, her silver hair falling over her shoulders like strands of light. She turned her head as soon as the door opened, her bright eyes locking on him. "Morning," Tom said gently, setting the tray on the table. Beside her, she looked at the food, fruit slices, bread, and a small cup of water. Then back at him. Her hands moved slowly toward the fruit, but she stopped, watching his reaction. "It's safe," Tom said, picking up a piece and taking a small bite to show her. She studied him for a second longer before taking one herself. The way she chewed was careful, like she was paying attention to every detail of taste and texture. Tom sat in the chair near her bed. "I'm Tom," he said, pointing to himself. "Tom." Her gaze followed his finger, and after a pause, she repeated, "Tom." Her voice carried a soft tone, like she was still learning how to shape the word. He nodded with a small smile. Then he pointed to her, waiting. She hesitated, then spoke a single word. "Riva." Tom repeated it. "Riva." She nodded once, as if confirming it was correct. They didn't talk much after that. She ate slowly, her eyes often drifting toward the medbay door, as if she was waiting for something or someone. Tom guessed he already knew what it was. The staff, throughout the day, the station was busy with quiet tension. People whispered about the strange visitor. Some believed she was a warrior from a far-off world. Others thought she might be a lost explorer. Security kept the staff locked in a storage unit, guarded and scanned. No one dared touch it again. Tom returned to the medbay during his lunch break. This time, Riva was not sitting on the bed, but standing near the window, looking out at the curve of the gas giant below. Its swirling blue and white clouds moved like a slow ocean. When Tom entered, she glanced at him, then back at the view. "It's called a gas giant," Tom said, walking to stand beside her. "Big planet, no ground, just air and storms." Riva tilted her head slightly, as if trying to understand. Then she lifted her hand and traced a small circle in the air, pointing down toward the planet. "Home?" she asked, testing the word. Tom shook his head. "No, not my home. My home is far away." She looked at him for a moment, then pointed at herself and shook her head as well. "Not home." Tom realized she was telling him this was not her home either. He wanted to ask more, but the language barrier held them back. Still, each small exchange felt like a step forward. Later in the afternoon, a med officer came in to run more scans. The machines hummed quietly while Riva sat patiently, Tom noticed she kept glancing toward the door again, and her eyes would briefly flick toward his face afterward. He knew the meaning. She wanted to ask him for her staff, but couldn't put it into words yet. When the med officer left, Tom decided to try something. He pulled out a small maintenance tablet from his pocket and brought up the station's object library. It had pictures of tools, devices, and equipment. He scrolled until he found something that looked a little like her staff, a long metal rod used for repairs, and showed it to her. Riva's eyes narrowed slightly. She shook her head. Then she held her hands apart, making a length in the air, and traced shapes as if carving symbols. Her movements were slow and precise. Tom understood. Your staff, he said. Her eyes brightened, and she repeated the word. Carefully, staff. He leaned back in the chair, thinking. It's in storage, he said quietly. Even though he knew she didn't understand every word, security has it, they think it's dangerous. Riva was silent, but her expression shifted. She looked less guarded and more thoughtful. She touched her chest with one hand, then made a motion of offering something forward. Like giving away a gift. Tom wasn't sure what she meant, but it didn't feel like a threat. That evening, Tom left the med bay later than usual. As he walked the quiet corridors, he thought about her patience. She could have fought to take the staff back the moment she woke up, but she hadn't. Instead, she waited, learning, watching. The next morning, Tom brought breakfast again. This time, when he set the tray down, Riva pointed to the bread and said, food. Tom blinked in surprise. Yes, food. She touched the fruit. Food. He nodded again. Food. She pointed at him. Tom, food. He laughed softly. Yes, Tom brings food. It wasn't much, but she was clearly trying. The more she repeated words, the smoother her voice became. By midday, she could say simple phrases like water please and thank you. When Tom was about to leave, she stood and stepped closer. Her eyes were steady as she spoke slowly. Tom, staff. He hesitated. He had been waiting for her to say it outright, and now she had. It's not easy, he said quietly, but I'll try. She gave a small nod, almost like a bow. For the first time since meeting her, Tom saw something faint but unmistakable, trust. That night, lying in his small quarters, Tom kept replaying the look in her eyes. She had crossed the stars for some reason, and he felt more certain than ever that the staff was the center of it. He didn't know if giving it back was the right thing to do, but he knew that keeping it locked away was slowly building a wall between them. A wall he didn't want to be there, somewhere deep inside. He decided, if no one else was going to take the chance, maybe he would. 2 days had passed since Riva had spoken the word staff so clearly. Tom thought about it every hour. The request had been simple, but the meaning behind it felt heavier than anything he had faced. Before, the staff was still locked in the storage room on the lower deck. Security kept a guard posted outside at all times. Chief Lorne had made it clear. No one touched it until the research team finished their scans. To everyone else on the station, the object was only a possible weapon. To Riva, it seemed to be something far more personal. That evening, Tom sat in the quiet of his small quarters, staring at the dim light on his desk. He remembered the way Riva had looked at him when she spoke the word. Her eyes hadn't shown anger or impatience. Instead, they had shown trust. Tom had worked on Haven Ring for 5 years. He was not a leader, not a scientist, and not a guard. But he knew the station well, every hallway, every vent, every access code. If he wanted to reach the storage room without drawing attention, he could. The question was whether he should. He decided. The corridors at night were silent, the hum of the station the only sound. Most crew members were in their quarters, and the security guards were fewer on the night shift. Tom carried a small tool bag, not suspicious for someone in maintenance, and walked toward the lower deck. When he reached the storage room, the guard was standing by the door, reading a small screen. Tom kept his voice casual. Chief, Lorne asked me to check the power relay for this section. Lights have been flickering. The guard sighed and stepped aside. Make it quick. This place is colder than the rest of the station. Tom knelt by the wall panel and began opening it with his tools. In truth, he was only pretending to adjust the wiring when the guard looked away. Tom quietly tapped his access code into the panel's small terminal. The door to the storage room clicked open with a soft hiss inside. The lights were low, casting long shadows over the shelves in the center of the room. Inside a transparent case was Reva's staff. It stood upright, taller than Tom, its surface dark and smooth except for the glowing lines that ran along it like rivers of light. He approached slowly, almost expecting the object to hum or react. But it stayed still. Tom entered the release code from the security terminal in the corner, a code he had learned months ago while helping with another storage repair. The case opened with a quiet lift. He reached out and touched the staff. The surface felt warm, almost like holding a hand instead of metal. For a moment, he hesitated. This could cause trouble if anyone found out. But the thought of Reva waiting, day after day, with nothing, made him tighten his grip. He wrapped the staff in a maintenance cloth and slipped it into the long carrying case from his bag. Then he closed the storage room, replaced the wall panel, and told the guard the relay was fine. Walking back to the med bay felt like carrying a secret the size of the station itself. Every step seemed louder than it should be. When he entered, Reva was sitting at the table, quietly tracing shapes on the surface with her finger. She looked up immediately. Her eyes shifted to the case in his hands. Tom closed the door behind him. "I brought something," he said softly, setting the case on the table. Reva rose to her feet slowly, her gaze fixed on the case. Her movements were silent, almost like she was afraid to break the moment. Tom unwrapped the cloth. The staff's glowing lines lit the room faintly. Reva stepped forward, placing her hand gently on the surface. Her eyes closed for a brief moment. Then she lifted it with both hands, holding it upright. Tom waited for her to smile, to thank him, or to show some sign of relief. Instead, she surprised him. She looked at him for a long time, then opened her hands. The staff slipped from her grip and landed softly on the bed beside them. Tom blinked. "You dropped it?" Reva nodded once. Then, in slow, careful English, she said, "Humans do not need weapons." Tom stared at her. "I thought this was important to you." She touched her chest lightly. "Important, but not for fight." He sat down, trying to understand. "Then why keep it?" Reva picked up the staff again, this time holding it like a walking stick rather than a weapon. "It is memory," she said, tapping the glowing lines. "My people's history." The words settled in Tom's mind. This was not just an object for battle. It was something sacred, something that held her people's story. Reva leaned the staff against the wall and looked at him. "You trust me?" she said slowly. Tom nodded. "Yes." She pointed to herself. "I'll trust you." For a moment, neither spoke. The quiet hum of the med bay filled the space. Tom felt something shift between them, not just understanding, but a connection deeper than language. Before he could say more, the station's intercom came to life. "Attention all crew." Chief Lauren's voice echoed. "Sensors have detected multiple ships entering the system. Unknown origin. All departments, prepare for possible contact." Reva's eyes sharpened. She turned toward the window, as if she could see the newcomers already. Then she looked back at Tom and tapped the staff. "This, why I come," she said. The hum of the medbay felt sharper after the intercom message. Tom and Reva stood in the quiet, the weight of the announcement settling between them. Outside the wide station windows, the gas giant's pale blue light washed over the walls. But Tom's mind was on the darkness beyond, the space where those new ships would appear. Reva moved first. She picked up her staff and walked to the table, spreading a small cloth over it. Then she began to press parts of the staff in a slow pattern. The glowing lines shifted, forming shapes that floated above it like a small hologram. Tom stepped closer. "What's that?" Reva tapped one of the shapes, a star map. She pointed to a bright dot in the center. "Here," she said. Tom leaned in. "That's our system." She nodded and traced her finger along a curved line leading toward it. The line ended in a cluster of smaller dots. "They come," she said. Tom swallowed. "Those ships," Reva nodded again. "Not my people, searchers." The word made Tom frown. Searchers? Searching for what? She looked straight at him. Energy. Old energy. Long sleep. Tom realized. She was speaking about something ancient, something hidden near Haven Ring. He remembered her saying earlier that the staff was memory, not a weapon. If she had traveled here with only that, then whatever was coming must be valuable in a different way. She reached into a small pouch on her belt and pulled out a smooth crystal the size of a pebble. Inside it swirled faint light, like a tiny galaxy trapped within. She set it beside the map projection. "This is peace," she said. Tom studied it. "Peace of what?" Her eyes met his. "Hole is big, hidden here. My people guard it. Many want to use, to rule, to take." Tom felt the back of his neck grow tense. "And these searchers, they're here to take it." Riva gave a single, slow nod. "If they find, many worlds change. Not safe." The projection above the staff shifted again. It now showed the shape of the station, then a glowing point deep inside its structure. Far below the living quarters, near the old mining tunnels. Tom blinked. "It's here, inside Haven Ring." "Yes," Riva said. "I come to warn, to teach humans hide it." Tom sat back, stunned. "Why us? Why not just take it with you?" She lifted the staff slightly. "Because not mine to take, yours to keep. Humans, different. You see value not only for power. You can choose to protect." The words caught him off guard. He had never thought of humanity that way, at least not from the view of someone who had traveled the stars. He felt a strange mix of pride and worry. The intercom spoke again, this time with a sharper tone. "Docking control to command. Incoming vessels now within outer range. They are slowing." Riva's eyes turned toward the sound. She pointed to the projection. "We must go. Show your leader. Tell truth." Tom hesitated. Chief Lorne doesn't trust easily, and he doesn't know about. He glanced at the staff. "This." Riva stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Trust is gift. You gave me staff. I give you truth. Now you give your people choice." Her words were steady, without pressure. But they left him with no room to hide. They left the medbay and walked toward the command deck. Along the way, crew members moved quickly through the halls, carrying equipment and speaking in low voices. Some stopped to stare at Riva as she passed, their eyes drawn to the glowing lines on her staff. When they arrived, the command deck was lit with pale blue from the wide viewing panels. Chief Lorne stood at the center, studying the approaching ships on the main screen. 3 of them, sleek and silver, moved in slow formation. Lorne's eyes narrowed at Tom and Riva. What is she doing here? And why is she carrying that? Tom took a breath. "Chief, you need to hear her out. The ships aren't here to attack us. They're here to take something from the station." Lorne frowned. "And you know this how?" Tom glanced at Riva, then back at the chief. "Because she told me, and I believe her." The chief's gaze shifted to Riva. "Can she explain?" Riva stepped forward, holding her staff upright. The projection of the star map appeared above it again. With slow, careful English, she said, "They search. Here is power. Not safe if taken. Humans must hide." The room was silent. Lorne studied the map, then the glowing point inside the station's lower levels. "You're saying there's something down there?" Riva nodded. "Yes, old. My people guard. Now, your turn." Lorne turned to Tom. "And you believe her?" "Yes." Tom said firmly, "I've seen enough to know she's telling the truth. If they find whatever this is, it won't just be a problem for us. It'll be a problem for everyone." The chief's eyes moved back to the screen showing the alien ships. "If this is real, we have little time." Riva lowered the staff and said quietly, "Time is gift. Use it." The words hung in the air. Lorne finally nodded. "All right, we go to the lower levels. If this thing exists, we find it first." As the crew began to prepare, Tom glanced at Riva. Her expression was calm, but her eyes carried the weight of someone who had done this before, someone who had faced the choice between power and protection. For the first time, Tom wondered if she had chosen humans because she believed in them or because they were the last option left. The lower levels of Haven Ring were nothing like the bright, polished corridors above. Tom had been down there only a few times for repairs, and each time the air felt cooler. The walls rougher. These sections were part of the station's oldest structure, built long before the research labs and living decks. Chief Lorne led the way, his flashlight sweeping across rusted doors and faded signs. 2 engineers followed, carrying scanning equipment. Tom and Riva walked just behind them. She kept her staff upright, its faint glow lighting the walls with soft blue lines. As they moved deeper, the hum of the station grew faint. Instead, Tom could hear the slow echo of footsteps and the occasional drip of condensed water. Riva stopped once to touch the wall. Her fingers traced the surface as if she could feel something beneath the metal. "Close," she said quietly. One of the engineers checked his scanner. "Energy reading is rising. Very unusual pattern." Lorne nodded. "Keep moving." They reached an old mining tunnel, a wide, curved passage with tracks still embedded in the floor from when carts had carried ore. The walls here were rough stone, not metal. The air smelled faintly of minerals. "This is where they stopped mining," Tom said. "The rock was too hard to cut." Riva shook her head. "Not rock, shell." Tom frowned. "Shell." She pointed ahead, covering, protecting. The deeper they went, the more the scanner readings rose. The light from Riva's staff seemed to pulse in rhythm with the readings, as if it was reacting to whatever lay ahead. Finally, the tunnel ended in a wide chamber. The ceiling arched high above, the walls rough but patterned with strange lines that did not look natural. In the center was a large stone-like object, almost the size of a shuttle. Its surface was smooth except for faint glowing marks, the same kind that ran along Riva's staff. The engineers stared. This isn't a rock." Riva stepped forward slowly, placing her palm against it. The marks brightened at her touch. "This is the whole," she said. "The heart of my people's memory." Tom felt his breath catch. "The thing the searchers want." "Yes," Riva said, "if they take. They can use its power. Not just for travel, for control." Lorne looked uneasy. "If this is what they're after, we can't just leave it here for them to find." "Then we hide," Riva said. "But not move. Too big. We make it invisible to their eyes." One of the engineers stepped closer. "You mean shield it? We don't have anything that can mask a reading this strong." Riva turned her staff and pressed its tip to the surface of the object. The glowing lines along both the staff and the object shifted, forming a lattice of light. "You have now," she said. For the next hour, the crew worked under Riva's guidance. She showed them where to place reflective plates from the old mining stores, how to align them with the object's surface, and how to connect them to the station's power lines without triggering the main sensors. It was strange work, half technology, half something else Tom could not name. As they finished, the scanner readings began to drop. The glow from the object faded until it matched the color of the surrounding rock. To the naked eye, it now looked like part of the chamber wall. When the last plate was set, Riva stepped back. "Now they will not see," she said. "But we must keep secret." Lorne nodded. "Understood. No one outside this room needs to know." Before they could leave, the intercom in Lorne's hand unit crackled. A voice from the command deck spoke. "Quickly, Chief, the alien ships are in docking range. They're requesting to board, and they're saying they're here on a peaceful exploration mission." Tom exchanged a glance with Riva. "Peaceful?" he said quietly. She shook her head. "Words can hide truth." They began the walk back through the tunnels, this time moving faster. Riva kept looking toward the ceiling, as if she could sense something above them. When they reached the lift, Tom asked, "What happens if they find out it's here?" Riva's voice was steady. "Then they will not leave until they have it. And they will not stop until every human world is searched." The lift doors opened to the brighter upper decks. The sound of activity filled the air again. Crew members moving in organized lines, voices speaking in low but urgent tones. On the command deck, the 3 alien ships now hovered just beyond the station's docking arms. They were sleek, silver, and reflective, their shapes like curved blades. A faint blue glow ran along their edges. A voice came over the open channel. "This is the exploration fleet, Sir Ollie's. We request permission to come aboard for cultural exchange and artifact research. We assure you, our intentions are peaceful." Chief Lorne responded with calm formality. "We welcome visitors under station protocols. You may dock under escort." The channel closed. Tom leaned toward the chief. "You're letting them dock. We can't refuse without raising suspicion." Lorne said quietly, "But now that the artifact is hidden, they won't find anything." Riva stood near the viewing panel, her gaze fixed on the ships. "They will still look. They will still test." Her words hung in the air. Tom could feel the tension building, like a string pulled tight. He knew the next few hours would decide whether Haven Ring stayed safe or became the center of something far larger. The docking bay of Haven Ring had never been so quiet. Usually, the arrival of visitors meant a crowd of curious crew members, a mix of chatter and questions. But now, only the security team and a few senior officers stood in place. The large doors were closed, the metal floor polished and empty, waiting for the guests. Tom stood near the side wall, beside a cargo crate. Riva was a few steps ahead, her staff resting lightly in her hand. Her silver eyes never left the docking doors. A deep hum filled the air as the alien ships connected to the docking arms. The seals locked with a soft thud, and the inner airlock doors began to open. A cool breeze, faintly metallic in scent, drifted into the bay. 3 figures entered first. They were tall and slender, wearing long, flowing coats that shimmered with a silver-blue sheen. Their faces were smooth, their skin pale with a faint glow, and their eyes a deep shade of violet. Each carried a thin device on their wrist, glowing faintly. The leader stepped forward, smiling politely. "Greetings," he said in clear English, his voice calm. "I'm Corin, representative of the Sorali's fleet. We come in peace, seeking to exchange knowledge and explore historical treasures in this region." Chief Lorne returned the greeting, keeping his tone formal. "Welcome to Haven Ring. We value peaceful cooperation. Please state your request in detail." Corin's eyes moved slowly around the bay, pausing on Riva for just a moment before returning to Lorne. "We have detected faint traces of ancient energy near this station. Our purpose is to study it for mutual understanding. We would like access to your lower sectors." Lorne's voice was steady. "Our lower levels are sealed for safety. Old mining areas, unstable and not suitable for visitors." Corin tilted his head slightly, as if considering the answer. "We have experience with such environments. We can manage the risks." Before Lorne could respond, Riva stepped forward. "Not safe," she said firmly. "Danger for all." Corin's violet eyes met hers, and something shifted in his expression. Not anger, but recognition. "You are not from this station," he said. "Yet you carry a relic of the old paths." He nodded toward her staff. "Perhaps you understand the value of what lies below." Riva held his gaze. "Value is not for taking." Corin smiled faintly, as if amused. "That depends on who holds it." The tension in the room deepened. Tom could feel every pair of eyes watching the exchange. He knew the searchers would not simply walk away. They would test the station, push until they found what they were looking for. The visitors were escorted to the meeting hall, a wide, circular room with a central table. Light from the large windows spilled across the polished floor. The 3 alien representatives sat across from Lorne, Tom, Riva, and 2 engineers who had helped shield the artifact. Corin began the conversation with polite questions about the station's research projects, trade connections, and energy systems. But Tom noticed how often the questions curved back toward the lower levels, asking about old tunnels, abandoned equipment, and unusual readings. Finally, Corin leaned forward. "We would like to offer a trade. In exchange for access to your lower levels, we will share advanced energy technology. It will double your station's efficiency." Lorne shook his head. "We appreciate the offer, but we cannot grant that access." Corin's smile faded slightly. "Then perhaps we may at least send our scanning drones through your mining tunnels. They will not disturb anything." Riva spoke again, her voice calm but firm. "Your drones will see nothing. The old heart is hidden." For a brief second, Corin's violet eyes narrowed. "So you admit it is here?" The room went still. Tom's chest tightened. Riva did not flinch. Yes, she said, and it will stay here. Corn leaned back, studying her. And what makes you so certain? Humans can guard such a thing. Riva turned her head toward Tom. Because trust is their strength. They protect not only for power, but for choice. Tom felt every eye turned to him. He hadn't expected her to place that much weight on him, but he understood the point. This wasn't just about hiding something. It was about proving that they could keep it safe without using it for their own gain. Lorne folded his hands. We will not allow access, if that ends our talks. So be it. Corn stood slowly, his coat shifting like liquid light. We respect your decision, he said, though the tone carried a layer of unspoken meaning. We will remain in orbit for a short time. Should you reconsider, contact us. The visitors left the hall, their footsteps soft on the polished floor. Only when the doors closed did Lorne speak. They're not giving up. They'll keep scanning, keep looking for a weakness. Riva's gaze stayed on the closed door. Then humans must hold their choice, even under test. Tom nodded. We've hidden the artifact. But now comes the hard part, keeping them from suspecting we've hidden it at all. That night, as the station lights dimmed for the rest cycle, the Sorali's ships stayed in silent orbit. Tom stood by a viewing panel, watching their silver shapes against the starfield. Riva stood beside him, her staff resting lightly against the floor. They will wait, she said softly. They will try again. Tom glanced at her. And if they don't leave? Her voice was calm, almost certain. Then we will see if humans are ready for the stars. For 3 long days, the Sorali ships remained in silent orbit. They sent no messages, made no formal requests, but Tom knew they were not idle. Sensors showed faint scans brushing against the outer hull, tiny energy pulses seeking cracks in Haven Ring's defenses. The station crew moved through their shifts with quiet tension. Every corridor felt heavier. Every conversation carried a question nobody dared speak. How long could they hold? Before something gave way, Riva spent most of her time in the observation dome. She stood without moving, her silver eyes fixed on the stars as if reading messages no one else could see. The staff she carried never left her side, though she rarely held it in a ready stance. On the 4th morning, the Sorali's leader, Corn, sent a short transmission to Chief Lorne. We will depart soon, the message said. We have no wish to disrupt your station's peace, but our interest in your lower levels will remain. Think on our offer. When the message ended, the command deck was silent. Lorne finally turned to Tom. They're pulling back, for now. Tom exhaled slowly. They didn't get what they came for. Riva spoke from the corner of the room. They will try again, in another place, on another day. But today is yours. The Sorali's ships undocked from the station's docking arms with smooth precision. Their hulls gleamed as they rotated away, the sunlight catching in bright flashes. In a slow, graceful line, they drifted outward until the pull of their drives carried them into the deeper dark. The moment they were gone, the tension in the station seemed to lift. Crew members smiled again. Conversations returned to normal. The hum of daily life began to replace the silent weight of watchfulness. Tom found Riva in the quiet storage deck, where they had first hidden the artifact. She stood in the center of the room, looking at the covered crate. They will come again, she said softly, as if speaking to herself. Others will come too. Not all will ask politely. Tom stepped closer. We'll be ready. She turned to him, her expression unreadable. That is why I will leave it with you. Tom frowned. Leave it? You mean, you're going? Riva nodded slowly. My path does not stay here. The relic is safe with humans now. You guard it not for gain, but for choice. That is rare in the galaxy. He hesitated. But if you go, who will teach us how to protect it? Her gaze softened. You already know. You proved it when you gave me back my weapon, without taking power for yourself. That choice told me more than words ever could. She reached into a pouch at her side and pulled out a small, smooth disc no larger than a coin. Its surface shimmered faintly, changing color with every shift of light. She placed it in his palm. This will call me, she said. If the day comes when you need my help, hold it and speak my name. But I hope that day never comes. Tom looked down at the disc. then back at her. Will we see you again? Riva gave a small smile. The stars are wide, paths crossing, strange ways. Perhaps. They walked together to the docking bay. A small transport shuttle waited, its hull marked with symbols Tom could not read. The ramp was down, the interior lit with a gentle blue glow dot before boarding. Riva turned back. One last time. Remember, she said, strength is not only in holding power, it is in choosing when not to use it. With that, she stepped inside. The ramp rose, the shuttle's engines hummed, and the small craft lifted smoothly away from the bay. Through the viewing panel, Tom watched it turn toward the edge of the system, its light growing smaller until it was just another point among the stars. Days passed, and life on Haven Ring settled into its usual rhythm. Yet for Tom, nothing felt entirely the same. The crate with the artifact remained hidden in its secure chamber, untouched. He checked on it now and then, not because he doubted its safety, but because it reminded him of the choice they had made together one evening. While walking through the quiet observation dome, he found himself staring at the same stretch of stars Riva had watched so often. Somewhere out there, she was moving along her path, guarding other secrets, testing other hearts. The small disc she had given him rested in his pocket. He took it out, turning it over in his fingers. The shifting colors caught the dome's light, scattering soft patterns across his hand. He wondered if she could feel it when he held it, if she somehow knew he was thinking of her dot below him. Haven Ring glowed against the darkness, a fragile circle of light and life in the vast emptiness. For the first time, Tom truly understood what Riva had meant. This station, this crew, even the quiet hum of its walls, they were worth protecting not because of what they could do, but because of what they chose not to do. As he slipped the disc back into his pocket, he made a silent promise. If the day ever came when the Suralis or any others returned, they would find that nothing had changed. The choice would still be the same. And somewhere beyond the stars, Riva would know.